to the Unleashed podcast, where we believe that life is better when it's lived from purpose. I am your host, Molly Brunk, and I am joined with Brad Thompson, who is the pastor of Be Hope Church. We are so excited that you are with us today. Brad, what is going on?
Woo! Podcast number one.
Number one. This is like the start of something new. Have you ever seen High School Musical?
Years ago.
Oh, I feel like that's a no. But okay, so every week we are going to be talking about a fun topic. We're going to get into something. We're going to discuss it. But right off the bat, we are going to start with a fumble moment, because we think it's good if we learn from the ways that we are messing up in our leadership, where we maybe are making mistakes, and we are forever learners. And so luckily, you give us a lot of fumble moments to work with. And so this wasn't too hard for us to come up with some content, but I am excited to hear fumble moment number one. Podcast number one, fumble moment number one. I'm excited to hear it. What do you have for us?
Fumble moment number one.
Yeah.
So the other day, I was with some of our team at an event, and the speaker was trying to communicate something about empathy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
All right, fair.
So I leaned over to somebody who I love immensely and asked him, I just said, hey, do you think I'm empathetic? Mm-hmm. And he looked at me, and he had the guts to just say, sometimes. Sometimes.
You know what?
I asked you this question the other day.
You did ask me this question as well.
I was shocked at your answer.
Well, my gut instinct tells me no. My first reaction when you asked me this question, if you're empathetic, I have to side with the guy that you originally asked the question of. And I would say no. Yeah. Because I have this idea of what empathy is in my head, and you just don't fit my definition of it, because I imagine someone who's kind of like a warm plate of chocolate chip cookies. You just can come and hug them, and they will just love on you and tell you everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, we need less people like that in the
No,
world.
those people are wonderful, and they should go nowhere, Brad. But here's the thing.
The world would never change if all we had were people who felt like a warm
Brad,
chocolate chip
I think you can be both. But here's the thing. I am excited to hear how you think you are actually empathetic.
Yeah. So this came out years ago when I was new as a pastor, and I had not discovered my purpose yet. I was performing the function of a pastor, but I had not discovered purpose yet in my life. And so I did a series of things in my life, everything from assessments to just kind of took a hodgepodge of things together and just kind of came up with my purpose and my mission in life. And one of the things that came out on top was empowering people. I feel like that is my God-given ability, is to empower people. And so what I learned throughout that process was I was empathetic. Most people perceive empathy as is exactly how you described it. A warm chocolate chip cookie, you want me to wrap my arms around you and tell you I'm sorry. And a lot of times we miss the whole point of empathy. I always say this, the word that's in the middle of empathy is the word path. And so I truly believe that if I'm truly empathetic and I'm entering into the mess of your story or the brokenness that is your life, I feel like in some sense, you have to empower people out of that. You have to show them the path forward. And so I actually believe that most people think empathy is just leaving them in the pit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And instead of showing them the road forward.
Yeah.
And so whether I like it or not, I just see my life as somebody who is a guide. I'm not the hero, but I like guiding people to where they need to be.
Yeah. I feel a little bit bad making you defend yourself on being empathetic, but not that bad, because I still wanted you to do it. But I think when you redefined it for me, it changed my perspective. And we had this situation between the two of us, even in general, when I came into your office and I was crying and begging you to not make me speak on a weekend service. Yeah. And I was initially frustrated with you because you didn't alleviate me of that stress. You just you told me how to help. You gave me some tips and pointers, and you built this structure and this framework with me, but you still made me do it. And so I was initially frustrated because I wanted you to remove that burden from me, but that's not what you did, because you knew on the other side of me speaking on a weekend, there would be something better for me. And so you pushed me through it, and that was empathy. It just wasn't how I had ever defined empathy before. And so,
I did in some ways enter into the story that you were facing, right? And we talked about this is like what you were experiencing was the weight of speaking.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this is a weight, this is heavy, this is a lot. I think that was empathy. But in addition to that, we talked about no, you're gifted, you're skilled. We still won't define if you're called yet because you don't know that, but I think you are. And so in many ways, it was this moment of, hey, no, you can do this, and it was empowering you. And all that comes from knowing my purpose. Yeah. Because I've had so many people tell me, Brad, you're not empathetic. And I love arguing with them, saying, no, I actually am. You just don't know it.
Yeah. Well, that sets us up perfectly to talk today about purpose. And so I want to know all your thoughts on purpose.
Yeah, my thought on purpose is that people will unleash their potential when they live from purpose, not direction. Does this make sense? When you live from purpose, not direction. Here's the mistake, I think, young people, young leaders and professionals, and I don't even say even people who are retiring make. What I find is so often we think about direction before we think about purpose. So we answer questions like, where am I going to college? Or who am I going to marry? All right, we focus on that. I love telling that story of Janelle. Like, we'll get into that later. But we focus on all the things that we do rather than focusing on who we are.
Yeah.
And so the tension that I find in most people's life, if I could give some examples, I know of somebody who's getting ready to retire, and they hold a really high position and title, but now they're wrestling with this weight of, well, I'm done. I'm not going to be needed. People aren't going to be calling. I won't have influence. And in some sense, it's like, I feel like I have a loss of purpose in my life. And I kind of want to just say, well, you've missed the point of purpose for most of your life now.
Yeah.
Because if your purpose is tied to a job or a function, you will always walk out of that disappointed. So, and I think that happens when we choose colleges and it doesn't work out, or we find ourselves in a job. I mean, I know people who are in a job that they don't necessarily like, and they hate what they do, but they do it for a paycheck.
That makes sense. So what's the risk if you live out of direction rather than purpose? Like, what's at risk in your life?
I think what's at risk for most people is, one, they lose a sense of meaning. I think the other big one, too, is when you live from direction rather than purpose, is you lose passion, right? What I find with so many people is they don't come from a place of passion. Like I was sharing this example this morning with Undercover Boss with somebody. Like you know you're going to encounter two employees on the old show Undercover Boss. You have the one employee who's completely disgruntled and they just do their job because it pays the bills. But then who always gets celebrated, the one that always gets celebrated is the one who, man, you go in and you just, there's a smile on their face. There's passion behind what they do. They understand the value that they bring to the company. And in the end, they end up getting promoted.
Yeah. And so what you're saying is you're talking more about who they are as a person rather than the job that they are performing, where I think sometimes we get frustrated and confused because we don't love every single part of our job. And we think that that's the thing that's going to fuel us. When in reality, what fuels us is our purpose.
Right. Yeah, we get so focused on the function of what we do rather than who we are as a person. I've heard it multiple times, and I don't know who the original quote can be attributed to, but it's always who before do. Who before do. Who am I before we step into what we do? That's purpose. And I was meeting with a friend and a respected leader here at Be Hope, who I love immensely. Spend a lot of time with him, but we were having this discussion of like, I think he senses meaning and purpose when he is serving on one of our Hope teams. He's a part of the church, and he's an extremely smart man and has a really important job. But then he steps into his job, and it's this question of, well, how does my purpose, what I feel over here, match up with the job that I'm doing in here? And what I realized throughout that discussion was, we hadn't really worked through this whole thing of, well, what are the unique gifts that you have in your life? Like, what has God gifted you with? Whether you believe in God or not, you have been gifted with something.
Yeah.
And so I started asking some questions, and just as a good example is this, he said, I feel like one of the things I do is I love to build community well, right? And so we began to say, well, that's who you are. And so you say, I am someone who builds community. What does that look like now in my job? Instead of just going in and doing a bunch of tasks, now you're adding value by stepping into that context and into that organization with this understanding that my purpose, what God has gifted me with, is the ability to create community with other people. And so now he's adding value where, and we had this discussion, be frank, like, not everybody comes to work to build community.
Yeah.
Like, most people come to work to do their job and go home.
Yeah.
And this is the big tension in America right now. Like, I don't know how many times I've read articles on this where purpose is not my job. Purpose is outside. When I go home, when I'm with my kids, when I'm with my family.
Yeah.
And that really makes me sad because I think purpose can live within the jobs that we do, even the ones that we don't like.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. And so what would you say to someone who maybe is listening today and is struggling on even like step one, identifying their own purpose? Like, what would you challenge them to do?
Yeah, good question. Here's what I would say about purpose. Purpose is why the world is better because you exist. Why is the world better? Because you exist. That's what purpose is. Without you, what would your organization, what would your team miss if you were gone? A lot of times we do that with organizations. What would your community miss if that organization was gone? The same question applies to you. If you were gone tomorrow, how would the company be devalued without your presence? I kind of like that when it comes to purpose, how you make the world a better place. But I think a few questions that I've asked myself personally, these are just questions that I wrestled with when I was first discovering my own mission statement and purpose in my life are these. What problem am I here to solve? What problem am I here to solve? There are people in this world who have problems that you can solve that you've been gifted for. And I always like to think that we are not the hero of people's story. They're the hero of their story, but we get to be the guide in helping them back to empathy, right? True empathy is helping them get to where they need to go.
Yeah, that's good.
And so what's the problem that you're here to solve? Second question is this. What's the thing you'd keep doing for free if you lost your job tomorrow? What's the thing you'd keep doing for free if you lost your job tomorrow? I tell people this, I don't need to be a pastor in order to have purpose in my life. Like, I'm not going to be a pastor the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool, but there's a reality of pastoring has a shelf life. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's probably mid-50s, right? So I'm not far from it. But I know that once I tell people I can carry out my purpose at McDonald's. If I worked at Chick-fil-A, I know that my purpose is to empower people wherever I am and to help them discover their calling in Christ. And so I don't need a job to do that. Yeah. So what's the thing you'd keep doing for free even if you lost your job tomorrow? And then the third question that you need to wrestle with is this. What skills or unique gifts do you have? Or what is the thing that you feel like you do better than most? When you step into a room and people are a mess, what's the one thing that you offer that they don't? And those three questions, I think, are extremely helpful to the beginning stages of finding your purpose. Yeah.
That's some good stuff. That's really good. And I'm excited because I think the next few episodes that we are going to dive into, like we're gonna talk about these things that help us define what our purpose is in our lives. And that's something that you're super passionate about, clearly. And so it's gonna spill out in this content. And so I'm excited about the next few episodes that are to come. But we can't wrap up today's episode without talking about our hope or nope moments, Brad.
I'm so pumped about this.
I know. And so we're a few weeks before this is going to get published. So some of these might be irrelevant by the time that this goes out. But just imagine you are a few weeks in the past when we were asking these questions.
Sure.
But the first hope or nope moment I have for you is messy in Miami.
Well, messy in Miami.
There's a lot of words that I don't know in this.
There is hope in this.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I think the reason there's hope is because he's going to be the catalyst for the MLS overshadowing the NFL.
My word.
And I know people are going to hate me for saying that.
Yeah,
and
that
I've been
is
called
like-
an idiot for saying that because,
Oh my gosh.
that's going to take 50 years.
Well, that's fair. But you like to think future. You're like big picture.
50 years down the road.
You're not frustrated that the tickets to the like soccer games that you want to go see now are $400 because Messi's going to be there.
Yeah.
Like you're willing to sacrifice like affordability for the big picture of
I
soccer.
am. I won't go see the game.
Yeah. Not sacrifice the money.
$25 to go see an MLS game.
That's fair. You're willing for other people to make that sacrifice
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one that we have is Hope or Nope, the Barbie movie, or the Barbenheimer series that is happening right now.
I'm going to say nope to Barbie, but
Oh my.
hope to Barbenheimer.
If they're together, then you're here for it.
Yeah, the only reason I'm there for it is because I fall asleep during movies, and so my nap time would just be extended by another 3 hours in addition to the first 3.
I was confused that you were going to spend like 6 hours not doing anything productive. That does not seem like a Brad Thompson thing
I
to do.
love those
but
big theater chairs that recline back.
that have the heated seats and
Yeah,
everything.
I don't even need popcorn. Just give me a jacket
That's
and I'm
fair.
out. I'm asleep.
You're just curled up in a ball during all of the most dramatic scenes. Yeah, Barbie was definitely overhyped, but it was good. You haven't even seen it, so I feel like you can't give a hope or nope moment. But
This weekend.
this weekend, last one is Twitter became X, which is like a super platform. It wants to be all the social media things. I think that happens in maybe China. They have like one app that like they use for everything.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, and so he's modeling after that. Him being Elon Musk. So hope or nope for
No.
that. Okay.
Nope.
You said strong nope.
No, that'll be like Threads. 3 days
okay.
in, lots of followers, but then gone in it.
Got it. You
So-
have a lot of opinions for someone who does not participate in the things that we are talking about. Social media, the Barbie movie, going to see Messi play, but that's all right.
But here's the thing, like, I mean, I think he needs to focus on cars.
Fair enough. You heard it here
makes great
first,
cars.
folks. Elon Musk focus on cars.
He makes great cars.
But we are so excited that you joined us today for our first podcast. And I hope that you subscribe and that you share this with people that you lead and tune in for the next one that is coming shortly.